Pop, 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 pop. Hey, everybody. What's cooking? If you can hear and see me, if you can just say so in the chat box, let me know that the audio and video is coming in good. Hey, hey. What's up? Nice to be with you all. Elon's just getting a glass of water. He'll be right over. So, yeah, again, if you're just popping in, if you can let me know if you can hear me okay, see me fine, that'd be great. And today we're going to be talking about just something that comes up a lot on coaching calls, something that comes up a lot when people speak with our consultants. It's just a running theme, things that I would say that people are mostly facing when they come to us is this feeling of, and if you feel, you align with any of these, just say I in the chat box. Usually people are overwhelmed by stress, overwhelmed by anxiety, that overflows into their life in some financial situation or creating hardships with their relationships or their personal health, whether it's mental well-being, emotional well-being, or physical well-being. And so a lot of people describe this feeling of stuckness. How many of you guys can articulate that in your lives there is some place that you feel stuck, and perhaps it's been a feeling that's been there for a really long time. Like it's not just in the last week or two that you feel stuck. It's like this just ongoing malaise of stuckness in some area of your life, and perhaps across the entire spectrum, right? Like you just don't feel like you have the type of success that you're looking for. So we're going to be talking about that in probably a different way than most of you guys are used to. If you don't know, we kind of have an inside out approach to the way that we work. Most coaching that you may have done or accountability practices that you've done, it's like, okay, let's journal, let's have some kind of accountability, make some kind of agreements, and while there's certainly value in that, certainly when people aren't taking action in their lives or a lack of motivation or just not feeling inspired, like we can try to rehabituate things till we're blue in the face. Most people that I've met, unless you have a system that's kind of organized like me and Elon, I think for better or for worse, depending on the situation you're talking about, Elon and I have extraordinary willpower. Like I can get stuff done on willpower. I don't know about you guys. And I'll tell you that that's not always the best way to go. Like if I need to diet, I can diet. If I need to stop drinking, I can stop drinking. If I need to, do certain restrictions in my life, I can do that. And I would say that's probably true for Elon as well. But over the years, as I have found, like that has kept me from being in tune with my system, big time. So before we continue on to the conversation, I just want to give you like kind of the overlay of the ground that we're going to be exploring today. I just want to let you guys know, if you're new to the community, then the first thing you want to do is you want to jump in on the 28-day active healing meditations that we provide for you. If you are not active in those meditations, and you should be, because if you signed up for the group, chances are we sent that to you as well. You can go to soulsandseekers.com/freedom. So soulsandseekers.com/freedom and sign up for that. It's totally free. The meditations are amazing. And they go in line with everything that we talk about here, right? Like if you guys want to know and have a direct experience and what is it that we fundamentally train people in, then the first thing you want to do is you want to gain self-awareness. I actually uploaded a reel this morning about a conversation we had probably like a few weeks ago. It was like a clip from it. And I was like, all right, people come to us for money. We're like, yeah, you should meditate. People come to us for well-being. Yeah, you should meditate. People come to us because they want to improve their relationships. You should meditate. And then there's like this but why? And so we understand, here. So we understand that meditation can feel daunting exactly for the same thing. Like you don't feel motivated, you don't feel inspired, you don't really understand what it's for, you don't have the willpower to create that habit. Again, I totally understand all that. And it's why we've created these meditations. There's 4 of them in this 28-day challenge. You practice one a week. And they all have different intentions in terms of what they open up, the channels they open up for you. But at its core, we want to understand that meditation is a witnessing practice. Okay. It enables you to witness what's happening at the subtle level of energetics within your body at an extremely high level. And when you do this, there is a response from our biology that can only occur when you're meditating. Okay, for example, I'll give you for example, there are things that happen only in your biology when you sleep. Like your body can only do that during times of sleep, right? Detoxification, certain repair functions, all sorts of stuff, right? I don't want to go into all of it, but like that only happens when you sleep. There are certain things that happen in your body only after you exercise and you stress the body in a specific way. Okay. And there are certain things that happen at the level of healing and both the psychosomatic nature, both the energetic nature and emotional level that can only happen when you meditate for no other reason than that's how our biology and our everybody. Whoops. It's not the circumstances. It's like what's happening internally. Is that you or me? Care about. Like even
That's you.
I'm gonna mute. Just take over for a second while I try to figure out where this is coming from.
Maybe the Facebook page is open somewhere. Success. I don't hear it now.
Because I'm muted. So just pick up from where I left off so I can figure out where it's coming from. Sorry. I have no idea what's happening.
You were midstream in thought, so I wasn't really sure where you're going to go with this.
All right, so just pick up wherever you want to pick up.
Yeah.
I really have no idea where it's coming from. 1 second.
Okay. All right. Well, just before I do that, I just want to acknowledge the new people and you guys inviting new people to these chats and groups, which I think is success. I think is super awesome. And one of the things that I think Guy and I are not great at is
Technology.
asking people to share this work and invite friends and conversations that are meaningful to you. I'm sure there's at least 2, 3, 5 people in your life that are kind of going through the same thing because we tend to attract people. So Alicia was saying how someone that she invited here is also struggling with similar romantic issues and romantic relationships, and so if you guys are ever enjoying the meditations, these group chats or this and that, yeah, just feel free. Like invite people into the group, share this work. The quality of your life is infinitely better when the people around you are living healthy, happy, balanced lives, right? Like if you have people around you that are always in chaos, always struggling, always feel stuck, that has an impact on you. And I'm not even talking about if like that person you happen to be married to, or your kids are doing that. So just again want to thank you guys for that, and also for being able to share that work.
Yeah. So it turns out my phone that I'm using as my camera somehow turned on a video in the background.
Oh, how interesting.
I have
That's
no idea.
new.
I have no idea how that happened. It just started playing out of nowhere.
It really wanted you to hear it.
Which is ironic because it was the very reel that I was talking about.
Was it really?
It really was.
That's wild.
Yeah, because I uploaded this morning, but it just started auto playing out of nowhere, as if it knew that it needed to
Wow.
be. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So funny stuff. So yeah, I agree with Elon. To that extent too. And feel free. By the way, the meditations again are free if you're getting value from them. Please share. Go look at the comments about them. Go look at the comments on the news feed of people sharing about it. I mean, if nothing else, if you never did anything else with us, it's what we always say here. It's like just take those meditations and give it a shot. And anything that you want to habituate in your life, you have to find a way to bring it into your day to day. Most people take their well-being as one of the last things that they do in their lives. They try to take care of their finances, they try to take care of their relationships and stuff like that. Well, I can tell you, your personal well-being is the source, is the spring from which everything comes forward. So if your focus is, honestly, selfishly, be selfish enough to take care of yourself, and you'll see that all these aspects of life that people try to work on circumstantially get significantly easier when you are fully resourced and grounded and feeling well and in connection with yourself. And so a lot of this stuckness, if you want to shift the conversation in that direction, is really kind of the underpinnings of the system, right? Like, how many of you guys, again, just here in the chat box, there's a bunch of you here, just name an area of life right now that you feel stuck in. Like where do you really feel stuck? Like, and again, it's the type of stuckness that it's like, try as you might, it hasn't changed. You watch the videos, you read the books, you try to find the resources, you wake up and you do your little enchantments and you tell yourself it's going to be okay, and like it just doesn't work out, and you find yourself in like similar patterns over and over again. And I just want to Elon's point, I want to normalize that, like, everybody's struggling. Okay. I want to normalize that everyone is suffering in some way. Even the people that you think have it all together, even the people online that look like they're living the best lives. Like, I follow a lot of fitness people on Instagram. And it's a weird thing to watch because of how people display their lives and they're in great shape. And then, like, suddenly this person, there's this woman that is amazing online, by the way. Like, she looks amazing, but she also, everything she writes about and gives value to, and she had some like hyper metabolism thing. Like, I never even heard of it. Like, her metabolism went like off the chain, and she couldn't do anything in her life. And for 6 months was sidelined and like gained all this weight and, got into this situation. And I feel like that is so normal for people. Right around 40 years old, a lot of people start experiencing panic attacks or anxiety that is beyond anything they would have ever anticipated, and they feel just completely locked into it. They don't know what's going on. And of course, medical science only has one solution, which is pop this pill and forget that you have that situation, right? So that's not dealing with the situation, that's overlaying. That's like when you're grieving and you're drinking. The booze is going to make you feel better. It is, but the grief is just right behind the next class, right? So we want to learn, how can we approach our consciousness in a relatively gentle way. Like, again, say I in the chat box. How many of you guys know that when you're struggling, you're not exactly kind to yourself internally? How many of you guys have like that inner critic that's
yelling
pretty
at you?
What?
That's yelling at you all the time.
Yeah, like you have a like, honestly, like an unjust inner critic. Like, you might not even notice that you're doing that, but like, you're pretty fucking hard on yourself. Okay. Yeah, a few people are saying I. And like, look, you picked that up somewhere. And if you really like kind of take a step back and notice what's going on there, it's mom and dad's voice that's inside of your head. You basically, like, you became the inner critic that was in your house. Whatever the parents criticize you for, try to correct you on, or try to push you to do, right? Like, you suddenly pick up on that. And so, I mean, guess why it's so hard for people to be around mom and dad in the physical sense when they go to dinners and stuff like that, or they agitate you. Like, again, how many of you guys know that your family is like your number one, they know how to push all the buttons, number one agitators? Well, it makes sense, because the inner programming that you're trying to get rid of or change in some way, there you are, there it is, and it's a physical manifestation in front of you. And now, instead of being inside, it's outside of you, and it becomes a threat. And let's be real, the reality is you're living with that threat inside of you all the time. And so I just want to say, like, we're all dealing with that. Elon and I are dealing with that. There are areas in our life that we struggle with, right? Without a doubt. There are areas in our lives that we crush, right? Like, people would dream to have such good relationships or be in the health that Elon and I are in and stuff like that. And then there's things that still like they pop up. And even when we get super stable and we have massive breakthroughs, guess what? They come up again for us to take a look at them again, because that's the pathway that this soul and these bodies and this consciousness chose to learn in this lifetime. That's how our lessons are coming, right? So to kind of move the conversation over to like what we want to look at is, and maybe I'll pass it to you, bro, is how can we, the question I want to ask you guys is like, so how can we, knowing that this is kind of just what all humans are dealing with, but we want to bring a fresh approach, not an inner critic approach, which, as most of you guys are probably noticing by now, that if you try to do that, literally nothing changes. If you try to use willpower to forcefully change habits or change the way that you think, generally speaking, nothing changes. Because if you try to like forcefully willpower or change yourself in a forceful way, what you're really doing is just amplifying that inner critic. And so you're creating this tension inside of your body all the time. And what we really want to begin to understand is that we're not just physical entities. We are energetic, emotional, very creative entities. And this life that we experience is a mirroring effect of the energy that we're outputting. And so while most coaching or advice that you'll get in this world is how to change your circumstances, what most people don't point at is the quality of the energy that you're in when you're taking actions in your life. Let me say that again. The quality of the energy that you're in when you're taking actions in your life. If that energy is of low quality, okay, meaning you take action from scarcity, from fear, from anger, from hostility, from whatever we would attribute as a negative experience or a negative quality for a human being. And that's where you decide to take action from. That action from that energy will create more of that energy. Okay. So again, if you're angry, it'll create more anger. If you're sad, it'll create more sadness, right? Like you guys have all done this, where you try to find safety through action, through changing your circumstance, and then you end up in the same place again, and you're like, what the fuck? I just put in all this effort, and I'm back here again. I'm back in this relationship. I'm back in this job. I'm back in this financial situation. I'm back here with my health. Like, how did I get here? How many of you guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's just like, feels like this looping effect. Say I in the chat box. So what we want to talk about is how do we take an internal look and not bypass what's going on, but actually go into these meditative states, like I said in the beginning, and actually activate this process that happens within a human being that allows for a certain healing to take place that really only happens in a meditative state. Okay, and with that, I'll kind of pass it over to you, bro. Maybe you can either add your sauce to it or pick it up from there.
Yeah, I actually, you were talking and we watched. Do you ever see the movie Dear Evan Hansen? If no one's seen it, it's the movie version of the Broadway show. So it is a musical. Just a preface to that, but the lyrics and everything is so beautiful, and it's just so poignant about the world as it is today. Especially it talks about kids in high school, but like it just so transferable to everything. And there's not to give too much away, but the kid's obviously struggling with like not belonging and anxiety and this and that. And then he has this beautiful conversation with someone else who he thinks has like everything. She's like the class president, has everything put together. And it turns out that she's also on antidepressants and also dealing with all this stuff. And one of the main themes of the movie is that everyone feels alone. And when we're in the struggle, we feel more alone than ever. And so I like what Guy said a lot, which is like, it's time to normalize that people struggle. It's time to normalize that you're not meant to be happy all the time or blissed all the time or in love all the time. Like, I don't know about your life, but life is messy. My wife cried this morning because of an interaction with our son and like feeling helpless, right? And like we were dealing with that this morning. You doing personal development or reading books or all that stuff doesn't protect you from life happening. It doesn't. Like, life is still going to happen. You know, people that are on a spiritual journey or personal development journey, I think at some place, like we all have this delusion, like we're gonna do enough work where our life is just gonna work in all areas, right? Like I'm gonna have the body of my dreams and the relationship of my dreams and the bank account of my dreams and the career of my dreams. And it's like I'm yet to meet someone, and I was sharing this with the coaches the other day. It's like I'm yet to meet someone that has every area of life at like the top, call it 1, 2, 3% across all facets of life at all times. Most people that I know that are very successful in their vocations, like business wise, struggle immensely with stress, overwhelm, anxiety, have pretty shitty relationships either to their spouses or their kids, most of them non-existent to their kids, and are not healthy. Why? Because we tend to focus on the things that we're succeeding at. So if you're succeeding at work and you have the respect of other people at work and you're getting a big fat paycheck and you're able to buy this beautiful house and this beautiful car and go on vacations, blah, 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 and then you come home and all of that goes out the window and you're take out the garbage, drive the kids here, and you're not showing up this way for me and you're not showing up this way for the kids, and you feel shitty about that because that's hitting all of your stuff inside. Old stuff, not new stuff. Like all your not worthy stuff is getting hit inside when you go home. Then where are you going to want to spend more of your time?
So true.
In the place where you're like, it feels like someone's just like gnawing at you and being like, you fucking suck, you fucking suck, you fucking suck. Or like, you're the champ, you're the best thing ever. And it's the same thing for health, right? It's like, why did Planet Fitness get created? For people who were not healthy, but when they showed up at the gym and they were watching these beasts of men and women who are like peak physical condition, doing incredible things, they walk in and what do you feel? The same stuff. Inadequate, not good enough, less than, whatever it is, right? So it's like, do you want to be in there? No. Every time I walk into the gym, I feel like feel shitty about myself. And then I work out and then I got to wash it down with a milkshake just to make that feeling of feeling awful about myself go away. It's like, right? So it all makes sense. So to be in the top 1, 2, 3% in all of these areas of life takes something. Now, what I'm about to say is hopefully good news, because the something that you think it takes is not that thing. It is actually quite simple to begin to be at 1% in all these areas of life. The reason people think it's really difficult, and you tell me if this resonates for you, is because the mind will tell you that in order to be 1% in health or in order to have 1% in relationships, you need to fix all this stuff out there. You need to fix how your kids talk to you and behave, and you need to fix how your wife or husband talks to you and behave, and you need to fix this about this condition and all this stuff, right? And so the mind is constantly spinning this story of like, well, you got to do this and you got to do this, and if you want this, you got to do this and you got to do this, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that is so much stuff and so overwhelming that honestly, I'd rather not do any of that, because if I go down that path and invest that much energy, that much money, that much time, and I still end up at the same place, which is what this is telling you, right? Like you're going to put in all this effort and all this time, and truth is you're going to probably still end up here. Because this stuff works for everybody else, but it's not going to work for you. How many of you guys have that voice in your head? Just say yes in the comment box or I in the comment box. It is constant. And it will convince you that it's really hard and impossible. And I was just talking to someone, it's like you get left with this place of like, then why bother? It's all going to end up here anyway. And my whole thing, like my whole story of I'm a loser, right? So it's like, it's better to get out now while you still can to avoid that heartache, that if we actually put forth effort, if we actually do the work, if we actually show up and then it still doesn't work, how heartbroken and debilitating is that going to be? So can you see, like, the part in essence is still trying to protect you and it's keeping you stuck exactly where you're at. And I talk to so many people and their mind talks them out of taking action or like taking the next step. And I'm going to tell you something. Your mind will never get on board with taking any of our programs or anybody else's coaching program. Ever. It's never going to be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. No. Why? Because it it's afraid of the unknown. So like you say you want to move forward in something in life, whether it's your health, your finances, your relationship, guess what's on the other end of that? The unknown. Doing something new, taking some new action, playing a new game, right? Like it doesn't know what's happening. So it freaks the fuck out and is like, no, let's run the other way. And so that's the complicated version, okay? Now the easy thing is this. What it actually takes is showing up and creating daily proper practices that you are going to continuously do over a span of a long time. And that simple practice and consistency is what creates results. There's no magic potion, there's no magic pill, there's no magic meditation, there's no magic book that you're missing. None of that. That is delusional mind thinking. That is lottery winning mentality thinking. Doesn't exist. It just does not exist. How many of you guys are part of our 28-day meditation challenge? And if you're in there, regardless of how many days you've done, how is that shifting things for you, right? Like is that 28-day process creating some sort of consistency in an area of life that before seemed not plausible or not possible? And now I hear it from so many of you, like you go through and you're like, oh my God, I sucked at meditation. Now I look forward to these meditations, right? As long as you're trying to do the work out there, you're not dealing with what Guy said earlier. You're not dealing with the thing in here that's constantly replicating and creating the same circumstances over and over and over in your life. And as long as you're like, what do I call it? Like trimming the weeds up here, you could trim them and it'll look good for like a day, a week, or whatever it is, right? But the weeds are going to keep growing back because the root cause is still in there. The mind doesn't want to go and look at the root. It's not interested. That root is littered with pain and shame and abandonment and frustration and anger and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be reminded. And the only way out is through. So when you're feeling stuck, notice what the mind tells you you need to do to get unstuck. Is that simple? Is the thing that the mind is telling you, is it simple? Probably not. It's a very complex world that it is designed for you to get unstuck. Like
It's a
this needs to
scheme.
happen, and this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and this needs to happen. And when this happens, we're gonna make it. We'll get to that top of the mountain. But now you're standing at the bottom looking at all this shit that you need to do and going like, fuck, that's a lot.
It's a
I don't want to do
scheme.
that. Yeah. And then you don't even take a step because you're like, it's not even worth it. I'm not gonna make it anyway. Our dad, brilliant man when it came to this. Guy and I wanted a dog really, really bad. And so I was maybe 12, guy was probably 10, somewhere around there. And we're like, we want a dog, we want a dog, we want a dog, we want a dog. And my dad was smart. He's like, I know what's going to happen. You want a dog, but I'm going to be the one ending up taking care of said dog. We're like, no, no, kids, right? No, no, no. We'll do everything. We'll do everything. You want to do anything. So my dad was like, I'll tell you what. I'll buy you a leash. If you wake up every morning and walk this leash around the block, rain or shine, hot or cold,
For 30 days.
for 30 days, we'll talk. He didn't say we'll get you a dog. He said we'll talk about getting you a dog. Guess how many times Guy and I walked that leash around the block?
Big fat goose egg.
That many. And do you know why? Because I knew that I'd be great at it for the first week, maybe even 2. But then at like 6 in the morning, one of those days, it is going to be cold and rainy. And I'm not going to get out of bed. I'm just not going to do it. And I didn't even try. Because in that one moment, my mind was like, dude, like we're not going to make it 30 days. We're just not. So why bother? And how many of you are stopped? I know my dad that was like, I told him, I was like, that is the most power dad parenting move of all time.
He had some other advice that was not as profound and good, but that one was good.
I mean, to this day, I'm like, man, I'm just thinking like as a dad today, I was like, that is some ninja shit. Like
Yeah.
unbelievable. But like, how many things do we all stop ourselves from because the mind has made it this very complex, difficult thing, and you're like, I'm not even going to take that first step. And then you get stuck where you're at. And what you keep looking for is this like quick fix or quick shift out of the thing that you're at. And I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. Right? So simple practices. Step 1, if you haven't already, get onto those meditations.
Why?
Just
What is it? What is the again? I hesitate to say why because you will calculate in your mind whether it's convincing enough to do the process instead of doing the process to convince yourself that it works. Because the reality is, and this is why books and meditation, bro, I didn't mean to take this from you, like the books and videos and all the rest of it don't necessarily work, is because you're taking someone else's opinion and you're weighing it against your experience and saying, is that worth my time or money or whatever, right? Sweat equity investment. And in a case of meditation specifically, maybe more than anything else, and personal development as a whole, and self-realization and awareness, like no one can self-realize for you, right? Just the same way, like no one can go on a diet for you to make you lose weight. No one can get sick enough so that you get healthy. Like there are things in life that no one can do for you. You can get support, you can get help, and trust me, in any way, in anything that you want to get in life, including your own healing, your own self-realization, support is paramount. And like Elon said, many of us are too scared to ask for support. How many of you guys know you suck? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, you're barely a 3 on your ability to ask for support. That is, again, something I want to normalize for people, like as a breakthrough. Again, Elon and I have coached 18 years, tens of thousands of people. We ask this question constantly. Across the board, Human beings have abolished their ability to ask for support. That's what it seems like. Our take on that, again, from working with a lot of people and from our own experience with it, is that as children, we did ask for support, but there were a lot of experiences around heartbreak with support. So keep putting your hand out and having it smacked away, or keep putting your hand out and having no one show up, is a pretty painful experience for a human being. And so we get to the point where it's less painful to not ask. And contrast to that, what Elon and I have seen is that a human being has the inability to heal themselves without support. So it puts us into this bind. It puts us into this massive contradiction in our system because we want it. We know we want it. We won't even articulate that we want it to ourselves because we're too scared what that means about us. We think it means we're weak or not capable or whatever it is. But we all still have this wonderful cliche that everyone uses that it takes a village to raise a child. Today, the child is not raised in a village, P.S. And in the same token, our experience has been to transform the adult, it also takes a village. No one person can do that. There's no one perfect practice. So, coming back to the meditation or anything else that you decide to do, empirical evidence is the best evidence. What you do in your own experience, gnosis, directly experiencing, is the only way to learn. Only way. You know, for most Americans, you have tried to learn languages, French, Spanish, whatever, German, in school. I don't know about you guys, none of that's stuck, right? Because the way they teach it is ridiculous. It's not conversational. They teach you grammar, they teach you conjugations and things like that. It's not how the brain works. The brain learns through immersion, immersive experiences, period. End of story. You don't do it, you don't learn it. So you can hear successful people, you can hear people who are doing developmental work talk about and describe the process they went through and what they did and how they got there, and all that will make no difference in the quality of your life, or very little. It might give you an aha moment. You might start a new habit and there may be some impact on your life, right? But at the grand scale of things, in the way that most of us see our lives, in the dream scenario of how we would show up every single day, I've never seen anybody get to any sort of stability, well-being, self-realization, relationship repair, physical health without being committed to a process. Now, you can commit to a process for a short period of time and take those lessons and apply them to your life and see how that goes. Or you can just say, hey, look, this is the thing that I make a priority. Elon and I still, to this day, invest an exorbitant amount of money in our development, right? And the reason for that is there's nowhere we can look in our lives where that doesn't impact it in a positive way. And so what you guys really want to understand is you can try to convince your brain that it needs to operate some other way than it has been for a long time. And truth be told, most of us have tried to do that. And the realization you want to get to is, how is that going? I will just venture to say that your ego, your identity, your personality knows how to play you like a fiddle. Well, it's smarter than you. It knows every carrot to make you feel shitty. It knows every carrot to make you take the action that's inconsistent with what you say that you want in your life. Because you guys got to get that the conditioning of our mind is such that it's already in there. It knows this version of reality really well. It knows these challenges really well. It knows that partner really well. You may not like it, right? Like your ego may be like, I don't like what's going on over here, but it will continue to do it because it's familiar. And familiar to our biology is safe. If I know what my Monday looks like, I feel safer. If I know what my Tuesday looks like, if I know what to expect from my partner, if I know what to expect from my finances, again, I may not, from the place of opinion, enjoy that or even have a good sensation in my body while it's happening. But to my biology, it's familiar, and familiar is safe. So I want to talk about the unbind because I think we've kind of, hammered this out about the experience. And can we all just agree that to some extent this is the experience that everyone's having? At least we've never met anybody who's not having this experience. And we're talking about people who have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank are having this experience, right? Money does not obfuscate you from having these experiences. I like to say you can't acquire well-being, you can't acquire beautiful relationships, you can't acquire the body of your dreams. You can only cultivate those things. In the same token, you cannot acquire self-realization. You can cultivate it. You can't acquire healing. You can cultivate it. And so there are, practices that we have developed over a 20-year period of doing a variety of lots of things that clearly work for everybody. And I can tell you the thing that works for everybody is meditation. And again, just like as I started, there's something that happens in that state, a response that your biology elicits that it can't do under any other condition. So if doing a water fast, for example, helps detox the body, if you believe that, right? And whatever, we can contrast that, but let's just work under the presumption that happens. When you meditate, there's also a type of detoxing that happens to your system. And so Elon and I, look, I'll tell you straight out, right? We have 3 programs that are the foundational programs that we teach here. In our level 1 program, we do operate all in the realm of the mind, because this thing is such a good chess player that it's going to outplay you unless you know the rules of the game.
Yep.
Right? Unless you know how to move, that the rook's supposed to move this way, and that when you move it that way, it goes this way, and that, hey, look, yeah, that might be happening, but you are treating that as if it's real. Real. Like you are dealing with that. You're putting a lot of energy and effort and action into trying to resolve that. And the moment you realize that's a phantom, that's not even real. You're like, I don't have to do anything about that. You don't have to do anything about that. All you have to do is watch it and be like, right? But unless you make that distinction in your mind, what happens to most of us is that not only is there conditioning, but we identify with the conditioning. I am this way. I have this problem. This is what I have to deal with. You don't understand my burden. Ba 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 ba. And I'm telling you, try as you might, even with the most amount of awareness, your mind is going to continue to do that. People ask the question, they're like, how do I stop this ego thing? I'm like, there are 2 options: enlightenment or death. That's it. It's baked into the machinery, and for good cause. And so I can tell you that standing in opposition of this aspect of you, of really any aspect of yourself, like it or hate it within yourself, standing in opposition of it only makes it do one thing: it becomes more aggressive. It becomes a bigger problem. The old adage, what you resist persists, is true, but not just at the level of like out here in our lives, literally inside of you. What you're energetically resisting, the emotions that you're resisting, the thoughts that you're resisting, every single one of those things gets more power, gets more aggressive, digs in its heels more. And I like to think of everything at the level of scale. Like if it's that way out here, it's that way in here. Like if I resist my wife's desires, those desires don't go away. We get into a bigger argument. We get into she digs her heels in more. She's more sure of her reality. I mean, look at like the political arena today. It's not like, oh, okay, well they're doing that, they're doing that. It's everybody's good. It's like the more they dig in, the more they dig in. The more they believe in their reality, the more they believe in the contrast reality, right? It's just this. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. Like our whole reality has this balancing act of constantly contrasting and opposing energies. And so again, that is happening inside of you. So what do you guys think is the way out of the trap? It's the simplest thing in the world. I'm sorry, it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's not simple. It's oppose nothing. It's to oppose nothing, to literally accept everything as it is. Now, here's the truth. Your mind doesn't want to do that. That would, to your mind, that's like, I have nothing left to do. You don't need me anymore. So I got to continue to create problems to work on so that I have value. In a weird way, that's kind of like how the modality works in there. But if you want to create more placidity in the mind, if you want to start feeling more calm, if you want to lower your anxiety and lower your stress, you want to start feeling well-being, you want to start getting into connection again with people. In the words of John Lennon, love is all you need. We got to learn how to love and hold every aspect of ourselves. Enlightenment is not a letting go of your humanity. And enlightenment is, it's an intense embracing of all of it with so much compassion and love that you look at every aspect of yourself the way that you look like at an innocent child. I have a 4.5 month old at home right now. It's fucking adorable, right? Like there's no judgment towards this child. There's just the compassion for the consciousness and energy and beingness of this person. And the reality is we all deserve that. We've all always deserved that. And if you're waiting for your circumstances to see you that way, if you're waiting for your partner to see you that way, to validate that you deserve that, you're going to wait forever. You're going to die waiting. It's never going to happen. It is too much pressure. It is too much to ask of circumstances and other people to verify or validate that you're good, that you're worthy of love, that you're worthy of support, that you're worthy of connection, that you're worthy of well-being. Elon and I can't validate that for you either.
Impossible.
Impossible. We're not responsible for your problems. No more than you're responsible for ours. So what we want to be able to do is to learn how to look, not only from the mind, but from consciousness itself, which, believe me, is a much bigger conversations, and all the very different levels of mind that Elon and I, over the last 6-7 years, have gotten extremely well versed in. And this is why people come work with us. Again, go look at testimonials or watch videos, are over the moon excited because what they are developing within themselves is an ability to witness their experience from a place of compassion. Like that should be our billboard. Witness yourself from a place of compassion. That needs to be cultivated. We can't teach you how to do that overnight. But you can make big, big strides in a very short period of time. And what this will do for your experience of being alive, what this will do for the quality of your relationships, what this will do when you're facing something that's fearful or you're feeling stuck again, and your ability to face that, not from a place of inner criticism, but from a place of compassion and love for yourself, completely changes the game. Completely changes the timbre of what it feels like to experience being alive. And so any conversation we have with you guys, that's always the invitation here. We want you to understand that your mind is not doing anything bad. You're not broken. You're not conditioned in any particular bad way, any worse than anybody else. Certainly, people have had very difficult circumstances in their lives. It's shocking sometimes how difficult and challenging people have it, or how much trauma they're carrying in their bodies. It varies, right? Like there's a pretty much an unlimited spectrum of stuff that we have seen. Here's what we can tell you that we have discovered. Your biology, your mind, is responding to a conditioned stimulus inside of your body. When you think of reprogramming the mind, this is why people get stuck, because of the language that we use. It's like, oh, let me reprogram my mind. Okay, give me the technology that reprograms my mind. Oh, here's a new thing to think about. Okay, well, I'll do that. And then it just like contrast from the conditioning. Very, very difficult. If you've been overweight your entire life, I watch stuff about fitness and diet all the time. I'm very, very interested in those topics and like why that. Like there's a set point for people's bodies. If you've been overweight your entire life, your set point might be like 25, 35, 40% body fat. That's what your body is accustomed to. It does not want to go lower. You can go lower, but it wants to go right back to where it was, right? So when you think about like our mental conditioning, it also has a set point. And your mind kind of wants to back in that direction, right? Like whenever it can. So if you're strictly working on mind, you can make headway. You can certainly willpower, manage, cope better with life. And what we can tell you is we think of the mind as up here. We need to start thinking of the mind as the entire system. And certainly the heart and the stomach as huge advocates for how you make decisions in your life, whether you know it or not. But at the level of a holisticness, like your entire nervous system, which is connected to everything within you, is part of your mind. If you stub your toe is going to have an opinion about that. And you're going to need to respond to that. That's part of your mind. If your heart hurts because of sadness or whatever we call it, it's giving information to your mind, and you're going to have an experience because of that, right? Everything is a feedback machine. It's one mind, one consciousness. So if you want to stop having an overreactive mind, if you want to not have quote low quality, negative quality, and again, I hesitate to use those words because there's nothing bad about you. There's nothing negative about you. There's no negative human quality. There's just that experience and what it's creating in the world. Okay, we can have moral objections to that. We can have moral opinions about that, but it's not bad inherently. It's like nature taking its place, like nature unfolding, nature evolving, right? So what we want to understand is how do we get a look in here? And we're telling you that the type of meditations that we're giving you for free and that we teach, and then we go into much more advanced work into the nuance of consciousness and higher levels of mind. What it enables for you to do is to clear out the energetic body, okay, or metabolize energy in here. And why is that what you want to do? Why is that so effective? And again, 20 years of doing this, it's the only thing that we found that like genuinely becomes sustainable for long-term transformation for people. Okay, there's like the quick win stuff, like understand how the mind works, become successful, become like awesome at, taking action and shit like that. That's great. Like that's like the Tony Robbins world, right? And then there's like, but then there's the underneath stuff. Like, why are you responding that way in the first place? Why is the conditioning constantly doing that? And so what we can tell you is you have what psychology and science calls trauma is really just stuck energy in your body. And the mind is responding to that stuck energy because that stuck energy usually shows up as a discomfort in the body. And so the mind's like, what's happening down there? I don't like that. And then it runs the program, whatever it does when that sensation shows up. You guys look in your own lives when your spouse does that, when you have challenges with money, when there's yada, yada, yada challenge. Don't you kind of respond the same way every time? Now, are you having that thought, thinking, oh, I should respond that way, or is it kind of happening? And even if you think you're having that thought, aren't you kind of being led a little bit, like a subconscious, right, unconscious type of maneuver is happening? You're like, how did I get here again? Why are we having this fight again? How did this, right, all this kind of stuff. And so what we want to do is not change the way the mind works. We want to go with the flow of the mind. We want to have compassion for this part of ourselves that likes to do that. What we want to do, instead of trying to convince the change, which is just resistance, we want to shift the stimulus that it's responding to. Very important. There's a huge difference here between trying to convince your mind to work differently than shifting the stimulus that the mind is responding to in the first place. So what we teach you guys is how to shift that stimulus. How do you metabolize that energy? How do you get energetic hygiene? Just like when you wash your body, you gotta wash your inner body, or it gets mucky, like old oil that's gunky and stuck to everything. And so the placidity, the calmness, the reducing anxiety, the connection with people, your personal gifts, your ability to take risks are all hindered by the conditioning of the mind. You want to change that, you got to shift the stimulus inside the body. Meditation is one of the key components to do that. And that's what we call a self-to-self practice. And I think we'll start wrapping up with here. The how you elevate that, why we do advanced programs. So you're like, why do you guys do anything past that? Because what Elon and I have learned is there's only so much you can do with yourself. Then you got to do stuff with self to other, like you and another person. And then it's you in group. Because human beings are social, dynamic, biological creatures. Okay, like we are social by our biology. That's why if you put someone in isolation, they get so fucked up. So we have a community here and practices that we can teach you to do with yourself. Understandings, philosophies, principles, practices that you can take on as a commitment to yourself and then do with other people, which repair these systems so that they work the way they worked when you came out of your mommy, basically. So like all that stuff that you're carrying around, you can lay it down. And I know it's really easy to say, hey, just love yourself, just love yourself, just love yourself. People don't know what that means because they think it's an idea instead of a practice they do internally over and over and over again to cultivate that level of compassion within themselves. I'll finish this like we started today. Elon and I still have challenges in our lives. But today, when we have challenges, we're compassionate with ourselves instead of critical with ourselves. This lets us spend a lot less time inside the challenge.
Yeah.
Because we don't work on it like a scientist who's trying to figure out what's wrong. We just witness as our biology has the experience that it gets to have when it's dealing with something challenging, like Elon said today with his son this morning. And so that's what's available here. That's what you want to investigate with us and our team. And that's why you want to have conversations about, what do these programs look like? What do they actually entail? And if we don't want to spend all that time here because guys, like, depending on what you're dealing with in your life, your level of commitment to doing this work, your level of investment that you want to take on, there's lots of different ways that we can support you. We are now at a point that we literally have programs starting at $47 all the way to $100,000. You guys get that? So what we want to offer you guys always is come have a conversation. Here's how you have a conversation. You just say, I'm in the chat box. When you say I'm in, someone from our team, we have 3 consultants here. Their name are Corey, Tobias, and Mel. And we have a few other moderators in the group that, may have a conversation with you. They will just reach out to you here and on Messenger or however you allow them to. And they're going to have a brief conversation with you. And you guys can have a quick 5 or 15-minute chat, talk about your circumstances, give us some information, let us know what you're dealing with, and then we will customize a plan based on your level of commitment, your level of investment, what you can and cannot do, and really what you want to do in your life. But bottom line is, nothing changes without commitment. And I'm telling you, it is a lot easier to do this work, inside of a community that is supportive and doing the work right alongside of you. Most of you guys do not have very supportive communities when it comes to your development. And if you've tried that on your own, you know what it feels like when you do something and you come home and nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. And then your transformation slips away because you don't have those people around you doing that work and supporting you. Just feel that heartbreak when you're like, hey, I just had this amazing experience. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you doubt yourself because when you don't get received by people, you think, did I really have a transformative experience or was I just lying to myself? So having that neurokinetic feedback with people, but people receiving you in your work and as you're grappling with this stuff really makes a difference. It is what keeps it around. It is what strengthens it. It is what helps it build. And so we've got all that already handled for you. It's all built into our process. It's all built in. We've made every mistake in the book and tried all the things to come to something that like we know works for everybody that tries it. Okay. So we're pretty much telling you that we guarantee that we can help you with any area of your life and help you transform it. For some of you guys, it'll take a few weeks or months or days. For some of you guys, that might take months or even potentially years. Just depends on what you're dealing with internally. Depends on how you look at life, right? Like some people are, the cup's not half empty. The cup is fucking empty all the way. It takes some time to fill that cup. Other people are, it's just different. It's just different for everybody. So, all right, guys, we love you very much. Again, if you want support, I'm in. If you need the meditations, let us know. However it is we can support you, just let us know in the chat box. Our team's always looking at these chat boxes and scouring the entire group to see how we can support you. If you're like, I need help right now, just post in the group. Email our support@satoriprime.com. Like, there's so many opportunities here for you to come and play, from live events to programs to experiences with Elon and myself, or even coming on as a private client. You got to look at what's important for you and really what you want to commit yourself to. All right. Love you all. Thank you for your time. And we'll see you back here same time next week. Next week, I'll be with Elon in Florida.